live from not Modine is Hanok Young as in the Big Apple up there up north. And how you doing up there?
Doing all right. Not used to these temperatures, I have to tell you. It's cold and raw. Heading to the Republic of Texas in a few days,
Yeah.
where it's about 30 degrees warmer, which I think will be better for my old bones. It's really kind of funny how you get and in Israel, I've sat there, with my hat on and a fleece, but it's cold here. It's cold in New York. It really is.
And how did you, I mean, growing up there, you get used to it, right? You used to be used to it and now you're not, and having to be thrown back
Well,
in there.
well, it's funny. When I was a kid, back in the day, as the saying goes, first of all, remember we didn't have any down. Down wasn't invented yet. So we had these heavy wool coats.
Yeah. Oh,
And when
yeah.
you'd go out and play in the snow, they would get heavy and wet and smelly, and you'd have to go home to dry it out. But the building that my family lived in, which was a 6-story walk-up, there no elevator. I remember one year, I guess it was in my late teens, when it was already, I think, in March, but it was still pretty cold. We went 13 days with no heat or hot water. Because I remember going to friends' houses and showering, which was really kind of funny in hindsight. But anyway, so New York it's cold, it's dreary. It's not at all like the quote unquote Christmas season or pre-New Year's, the holidays, all those. I'm doing a lot of quotes today.
There you are.
Um, it's a different environment,
And
different
you're
world,
you're getting out of
different
there
world.
just in time. I guess you'll be spending New Year's Eve in the nation of Texas.
Yes, yes, I'll be visiting with dear friends Joe and Debbie Good. My speaking schedule remains exactly the same. Instead of trying to move things up and shift things around. So this gives me more time to, do some recordings and planning and all kinds of other things, considering that I had almost 3 weeks left to gather everything in Israel that I needed for this trip,
Mhm.
and I had to do it in 48 hours. So yeah, I'm still a little,
and you travel so well anyway. So,
oh,
but that's another subject that we won't
that's
go to.
it's a whole different subject.
So let's go. What is going on now that you're not in the land? I mean,
Yeah.
you're probably still keeping up with what's happening over there. What's
Always, always. It's my perpetual obsession.
Mhm.
A couple of news items caught my eye. One, and this is the thing that people kind of look at but don't pay attention to. The American administration is paying an enormous amount of attention to Israeli Arabs
Mm.
and quote unquote Palestinians, those who are residents of areas controlled by the so-called Palestinian Authority.
Okay.
Now, Israeli Arabs are approximately 20% of our population. So why is it that the new American ambassador to Israel is spending so much time with them? That's one thing that inquiring minds would want to know. Um, Former President Trump continues to, rattle around a bit, still not understanding why I'm in. Okay, let me pause for a second. I'm saying two things simultaneously. It's very evident that Trump, by his own admission, did things for the state of Israel in the mistaken belief that that would garner support amongst Jewish Americans.
Mm.
Doesn't mean he's a Jew hater. I don't think, I think Trump's personal psychology is he loves himself so much that if you're in line with him, you're okay. And if you're not, like people say, but his daughter Ivanka is Jewish. That doesn't mean anything. I mean, Trump is the same guy that years before it said that Ivanka was so pretty that if she wasn't his daughter, he would date her. I mean, this is crazy nuts cuckoo stuff.
Kind of
Okay,
strange
so
statement. So everything, I
the
mean,
American
this
nuclear
comes down to the I think, the fact that Trump's a businessman. He is a businessman, and whatever he has to do in business, that's what he does, and that's not a for or against the man. It's just kind of who he is.
Yeah, and that's something to keep in mind. Now, the perpetual dance go no go between America and Iran and European powers is both fascinating and incredibly boring at the same time.
Mhm.
And no one really knows what's going on. America is desperate to make a deal simply because America doesn't want to consider any other options.
Mm.
That's the harsh reality. Whatever is decided in the end, the ultimate loser is us in Israel,
Mm.
without a doubt.
Okay.
Now, despite everything that you've been reading, Israel is not prepared to go to war against Iran. This is not just my opinion. This is, amongst, it's like the people that I know who know people who are in the know. We're just not. Now, part of the problem is it's not like when Israel took out the Iraqi nuclear, boy, I just said it like President Bush did, nuclear reactor,
Pricing for
or
Texas.
when Israel took out the Syrian nuclear reactor.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is the Iranian setup is it's dispersed throughout their country, and it's a pretty big country. It's way down underground and heavily protected. We don't have the ordnance, the bombs, the bunker buster bombs that the Americans have, nor do we have a plane capable of carrying them
Mm.
that could penetrate that. So that's a big issue. If you saw on the news, Iran did a promotional video of them attacking our nuclear plant in Dimona. So it's kind of going from bad to worse to ominous in terms of the potential security situation. You've seen an uptick in terrorism
Yeah.
throughout Judea and Samaria and Jerusalem.
Mhm.
That is all orchestrated from Hamas. That is the fact that they're getting some crazy teenagers, or in one case in Hebron, a 65-year-old woman, attacking soldiers with, I mean, this is, and remember, their families will now be taken care of financially
Mhm.
for the rest of their lives.
Oh yeah.
And it's kind of astounding. It's kind of astounding all in all.
So hold on. Right now,
And it
kind of
brings
feels
us,
it
as
kind
you know,
of
we
feels
were,
like the slow pot. The slow boil of the frog in the pot. Right now, it's as you're watching the news, we're watching it from all these different places. You're saying that Israel does not have the ability to take out something in Iran. America definitely doesn't have the will to do it, and so you have this terrorism that's happening in Judea, Samaria. It's one attack here, another one here. It's not like the Oslo War, the so-called Intifada, where there were numerous buses blowing up on a daily basis, and all these things that are happening. It's not the same as it was then. So are we just in for this long haul of a slow boil, or do you see something that might trigger us to another place?
it's interesting. I think terrorism on a small degree, is going to be with us regardless. Okay, I think you just unfroze.
Yeah, just
Okay,
barely.
so-
Okay, so the last thing you said, and I'm going to try to clip that out later on. Last thing you said is that terrorism, as we know, is going to be with us.
Right. Because, and again, it all comes back to the fact, we go back to June 1967, Israel never completed the exchange of populations. And this is what we're stuck with.
Mhm.
The thing is, and I'll quote from 2019 statistics, because that's the last full normal year that we had. 18 Israelis were killed by terrorists over the course of the entire year. 18. Out of a Jewish population now approaching 7 million.
Okay.
Total population of our country of 9 million. 18 people. By the way, contrast, on any given weekend in Chicago, anywhere from 20 to 25 people are murdered.
Oh, sure.
In the course of a year, that same year, we lost 348 people to automobile accidents. So terrorism gets the news, but it's not a significant issue or concern. It really isn't. The fact that more and more terrorists are armed with automatic weapons is a concern. But the fact that any lunatic can grab a kitchen knife and stab someone in the back, but again, right now I'm sitting in Manhattan, which has to be one of the world's potential capitals for loony. So, that's one issue. The other issue, which kind of the contrast, it's kind of like, well, there's good news and there's bad news. We just did the bad news. The good news, the government of Israel is making an effort now. They're investing 1 billion shekels to double the population in Ramat HaGolan, the Golan Heights, to develop more infrastructure, to put twice as many people. And the population in the Golan is small. I mean, there's about 25,000 Jews there.
Oh yeah, I mean, you drive around up there, as we've done numerous times, and you can go a long ways and not see anybody.
Yeah. So that's very significant. And it shows that we continue to move forward in areas. Now, we have a budget that was passed. Infrastructure is being worked on, things within our society. But here's a point. 2 years ago, when this crazy nuts cuckoo virus hit us, it was pointed out that we don't have enough hospital beds in Israel. However, it's 2 years later, and we don't have a single additional bed since.
Wow.
So there are areas that really continue to need to be improved. Of course, if we didn't have to spend billions on defense, wow, what we could do would be amazing.
That's something that I've thought about so many times, Samok, is I understand we're now seeing it a little bit here in the United States of, security guards and things and people going into their local CVS and coming out with $999 worth of stuff. It's gone crazy.
I saw that, yeah.
But the amount of money that Israel has had to put into security since prior to 1948 is astronomical. The percentage, and if you look, and I've always looked at it this way, and this is a very easy web search to see the things that Israel has brought forth in the world, everything from agriculture to computers to technology, microbiology. The list is almost endless. A quicker read A far quicker read is to type in that which the Palestinians have brought forth, which is like not existent.
Zip.
So that being said, what if, and you and I are all about the restoration of all things, okay? We're all about the Ephraim and Judah and Israel becoming Israel and all of these things. One of the things about that day, in my opinion, one of the things is that there will not have to be that number of shekels, dollars, dinars, yen, whatever it is, will not have to be spent for that. What if Israel, a collective Israel, Ephraim, Judah, coming together united, could put all of their effort into the world out without defense? I mean, what could be done?
There are communities throughout Africa, villages, remote villages that now have clean water, thanks to Israeli technology and Israelis that have gone and helped them do this. Even a microcosm of it, of what if 100,000 American Jews actually, and I'm talking about Orthodox American Jews, actually believed in the tefillot and the prayers that they say every day, just like I do, and actually moved to Israel, what changes we could have in our society. Potential good news. We're almost at the end of 2021. The number of Jews from America in the midst of all this craziness that have come on Aliyah is the highest number that it's been in over 25 years.
Wow.
That's good news. But let me give you the number. 4,000. 4,000. Now, when I came in 2009, we were among the high level. We were like in the upper echelon. We were 3,500. The statistics for American Jews that return to the US is 75% go back within 3 years.
So out of that 4,000, statistics remaining the same, 1,000 will stay, 3,000 will go somewhere else. What is the population of American Jews now?
Okay. The range is somewhere between 4.8 and 5.2 million. And again, it gets muddy with who is a Jew,
Yeah, sure.
But basically that, now when I was a kid, it was thought that there were 6 million American Jews. Now there's somewhere between 4.8 and 5.2 million. They didn't go to Israel. They've kind of like, vanished into the ether. Whereas our population in Israel of Jews is now approaching 7 million.
Okay, let's go back to this thing, the Golan, because you got my attention there. I read this the other day, of course. The Golan Heights. This is kind of like driving through Kansas in a lot of ways, as far as there's just nothing out there. 2 years ago or a year ago, with Bibi Netanyahu, there was no talk about something like this. There was all the talk about two-state solution and all of these things that are irrelevant to the restoration or fighting against, actually. So Naftali Bennett, in saying that they're going to put 1 billion shekels, whatever, into infrastructure in the Golan Heights, is basically saying we're not giving anything to anyone and we're not going anywhere.
Exactly. And the fact that it wasn't just him saying it, but they brought the entire cabinet, our leadership, our entire government went to the Golan Heights for this. So there is broad consensus. Now, of course, the irony that you point out is, yeah, Netanyahu, in the eyes of most of our listeners, eyes or ears, was, Mr. Right Wing. He wasn't.
Mm-mm.
He wasn't. And right wing, left wing, chicken wing, buffalo wings, it doesn't matter what wing you are. It's what do you do? What do you do? And that makes a huge, huge difference.
Mhm.
So I see, it's interesting. The Jewish understanding of the process of Geulah, of redemption, is it's kind of like when you look at your ECG. You have the QRS complex. I actually knew this stuff once upon a time. Things are going up and down, up and down, up and down. We don't have a direct line
Mhm.
where everything's coming up roses for redemption.
Mhm.
There are things that we'll do that are wrong. There are mistakes that we make. We're far from a perfect society, but clearly the things that are going on are incredible elements to be excited about. But instead, people want to focus on, well, I heard that you'll need a green pass to do whatever. It's interesting. People use the term the ultimate reset or the great reset or whatever. I see this period, as I would define it, as the ultimate distraction.
Mhm.
This is the ultimate distraction. People have taken the extensive Facebook course in epidemiology, and they're able to predict trends for all viruses and all illnesses of all time. And they're forgetting the bottom line of showing up at their local congregation on Shabbat morning, making sure that they tithe to that congregation and strengthening their family's commitment. Mike, you use the term the rising generation. And like in so many ways, you inspire me. That's a great thing. But how many people are sitting around their table looking at their children saying, you guys
Mhm.
are what we should be focusing our effort on. There needs to be more youth programming. From little kids, I mean, you've told me about your vacation Bible school experiences, just a few years ago.
Yeah.
When you were a mere lad. Surely people realize that children are the future. I mean, I say that surely, basically, I'm in my head, I'm saying, nah, forget about it. There's so much that's in our grasp right now. This is such an incredibly exciting period of time,
Mhm.
which is, and I have to be honest with you, I am not at all pleased at traveling around at a time when people are getting sick, whatever they're getting sick from. Because, and let me be very honest with peeps, if y'all don't feel well, whether you're tested for it or not is irrelevant. You can go home and hang out at home for a week and then feel much better.
Mhm.
Mr. Hanoch has got nowhere to go.
Yeah,
If
you're gonna be
I'm
out
on
there
the
anyway.
road, and I'll be on the road for the next 2 months, almost to the day, 2 months. If I get sick, I've got to check myself into a hotel. I've got to find some way of getting food. And I've got to cancel all of the speaking engagements
Yeah.
for whatever that period of time. It's a very scary thought. But why am I here? I'm here because y'all obsess me. And Hashem doesn't let me forget y'all. He doesn't. Now,
You just said y'all obsess me. I've been around you many times that y'all have upset. It just kind of depends on the day.
Yeah.
One day it's upset and the other day it's obsessed. But
Well, the obsession remains.
yeah,
The upset, it happens. Although I really feel compelled to change some of my y'alls to use, like you've got to stop upsetting me. Those kind of things.
Well, so what is your first? You're heading to Texas now. You're going to be down there with Joe and Debbie for a little while. What is your
Yes.
first speaking engagement? Where are you going to be at?
Out of Ashes Ministry.
Okay, Joey Mon.
I have been invited by Joe and Heather and all of our lovely friends at OAM to come to, well, it's not the Queen City. I mean, when I think of great cities in America, after Franklin, North Carolina, it's like, who's left?
Yeah, that's true.
Well, DeRidder, Louisiana.
Yeah.
DeRidder, Louisiana, which has been in the Guinness Book of World Records by having most churches per capita than anywhere else in the United States.
Yeah,
So
it's quite a place. I've been there. I've been there. So, and so people can check your schedule at kolyahuda.com. You've got everything
right.
up there ready to go.
I've got, I don't have the individual dates yet. I have the individual flyers, but I don't want to start posting them because, it's kind of going to get lost in the shuffle. But if anyone wants to know, like, gee, I see that on X day in February, you're going to be in Colorado. Where in Colorado? Be happy to
Okay.
respond.
Well, stay well. And
thank you, you too. And I'll see you all soon.
Yeah, it's not that far out from right now. You're going to be here in about 3 weeks, and we are looking forward to you being here. We're going to have a great time. So stay well, okay?
I certainly listen. I've got, it is amazing when you realize how much your pure products weigh. When like you've got your tub of hydrate, you've got your tub of sulfur, and you've got your greens, and your Mila.
And you got boxes, and you got boxes and boxes here that you got to take from here. So, but
sure
yeah, we'll be praying that everything goes well for you as you get out of New York and into the real world.
Absolutely, Mike. Take care. Have a great week. And I'll see you soon.
You got it, man.
Shalom.